becoming universally unified in alignment with our greatness, which lay dormant for ages, but now it has been awakened. In this dispensation, we've been repositioned for a movement, excluding the lie of being viewed as 3/5 of a human. My lineage says different. God listens, these prayers different. My people are royal. Tell Jordan this air's different. Speaking the air, make a fist, lift it up in the air with it. Uncomfortable with us being aware, that's their business. You can never deny the fact my people spend trillions as consumers. We tired of that, so now we focus on buying black. Black dollars circulate with us, and ain't no buying that. Building multi-generational wealth is where you'll find us at. Won't be satisfied until all of mine living comfortably. Think before you come for me, redefining black luxury. Yeah.
I wanna celebrate this life forever. I'm living it, not dreaming it. We getting it, black luxury. I wanna celebrate this life forever.
What's up?
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, everyone.
Lights,
Camera.
Black
Action.
yeah.
So welcome y'all to season 3 of Revolution Ready. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to have accepted the invitation. But more importantly, I'm happy to be sharing the mic right now with my brothers, Sedan Smith, Pierre. I mean, this combination came so unlikely, but we mesh well, and our vibe and our energy is just right here. And I want y'all to feel this for this next season of Revolution Ready. Go ahead. Let them know what's going on.
I'm so happy to be here. So, I mean, season 3, oh, man, season 3, this is huge. You know, I'm here with Tiffany Henry. I'm here with Pierre. Like, what? We in the building, y'all. We got a long list of heavy hitters that we're going to be, you know, touching bases with, and we're going to be able to keep y'all in tune with the revolution. We're going to be able to keep y'all ready. Pierre, man, go on, let them know, man.
I ain't got too much to say. I'm just excited. I'm ready to dive right into it, man.
Exactly.
I'm just really happy to be here. Glad the invitation was extended, and let's do it.
And I just want to give a shout out to Black women, two Black women in particular, Shani and Becca, for just coming up with the concept and not just saying it, but actually executing and creating a space for Black voices and be able to have conversation and uplift awareness about what's going on in our community, but even outside of our community, and make sure that we're in tune. But more importantly, them not just seeing themselves in this seat for long, that they said, we're going to move over and we're going to make sure that others also get on the mic and be able to talk and be able to bring heavy hitters like we got tonight to be able to share with you about what's going on in the revolution. But keep in mind that it's not just about the revolution. We want to educate, we want to empower, we want to inspire, and we want to make sure that y'all have a call to action and that y'all can get involved in the movement. Y'all can get involved into what's going on. So without further ado, I think we can just go ahead and go in. Are we good? Make sure y'all sharing this Revolution Ready page. Share it, like it again.
Get the
your
gear.
comments,
Right.
get your gear.
Catch the gear.
Get your hoodies, get your t-shirts, get your hoodies, get your sweatshirts, and make sure that you are supporting the cause, supporting the movement, and making sure that people know about Revolution Ready. We definitely want to tap into our guests tonight. We have 3 amazing guests who have said yes to accepting the invitation to just sharing and talking to us. We're going to talk about a whole lot of topics in this conversation tonight. Try to hit on everything because so much has happened within just the past couple of days, and we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence talking about it. So Dan, Pierre, help me out here.
Man, we ain't gonna have much time to give them everything now. You know, we need way more time than what we got because there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Especially the way we feel about it. And you know, me myself personally, like, man, every time I hear about what's going on in the world today, it just hits home for me. It just does. You know, my reality most definitely, but it's true. You know what we go through, and
I just feel like, man, it's emotional for everybody on different levels. But being able to see that, you know what I mean, from a broad spectrum to adapt to everybody else's views of what's going on. You know what I mean? So I feel like, man, hey, it's a lot going on. So we gotta inform the people, man.
It's definitely and we got a very, very special guest in the building tonight. We have Dr. Umar Johnson.
Woohoo, 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 woohoo. We got a
Um,
heavy hitter sound. Heavy hitter sound.
very, very heavy hitter. Without further ado, Dr. Umar Johnson, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be with you.
It's definitely, you want to just give the people a formal introduction of who you are, you know, what you do.
I'm Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm a certified school psychologist and principal, doctor of clinical psychology, author of 2 books. The first, Psychoacademic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. And my new book, which is right here, Black Parent Advocate, The Art of War for Dealing with America's Public and Charter Schools, which is a resource guide to help Black parents fight back against the school to prison pipeline, and in particularly special education, ADHD, psychiatric medication. I'm founder of the National Independent Black Parent Association, as well as Team Pan-African and the Unapologetically African Movement.
That's what's up. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to ask you personally, what was it that inspired you to, you know, just not only just speak up for our people, but to be able to advocate for parents and try to give them a message to be able to stay in tune with their kids and as far as how they can handle the ADHD?
Well, my journey began in North Philadelphia in elementary school. We had Black History class in the 4th and 5th grade. That's probably where my road through Black consciousness began. The next year, I believe my father took me to my first family reunion, where I learned that I was related to the Honorable Frederick Douglass. And so from that point forward, I was pretty much focused on what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I chose to be a psychologist in the 3rd grade. So 3rd grade was my career path. 4th and 5th grade was the awakening of Black consciousness. 6th grade was learning I was related to Frederick Douglass, which gave me a very special, what I want to say, charge or burden of obligation to try to live up to the great works that he did. And of course, joining the Marcus Garvey movement, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and African Communities League, which is the largest Black movement in modern history, and which gave us the red, black, and green flag. You know, I've been a Garveyite for most of my adult life. And so being a Pan-Africanist and being in the Pan-African movement, education is essential to doing that. So when I became a school psychologist, I saw firsthand how special education and ADHD was being used as weapons of mass destruction. I remember my internship year where my supervising school psychologist was a European Jew, a female, and she would give me the cases that I needed to evaluate. And I'm evaluating these Black boys all across the city of Philadelphia, and I'm not finding anything wrong with them. And then that's when I realized that special education was more of a trap than it was some sort of a help. And I start seeing how so many of those boys was being referred out for ADHD, so forth and so on. And going through my doctoral program, seeing how so many Black boys were being diagnosed as ADHD who were simply normal. The school simply wasn't providing for them. That's where my passion really came from, because it's hard to sit by and watch something like that happen to children.
Most definitely, I can understand that.
Yeah. And I got a quick question for you, Dr. Umar. I know you mentioned, you said the 3rd grade.
Yes, that's when I decided that I wanted to be a psychologist.
So what could you just put me in your mindset as a 3rd grader that led you to say, this is what I wanted to do?
Yes, I didn't have an older brother. I'm the oldest of 5 boys. I didn't have an older brother. So I said, when I grow up, I want to be the big brother that younger children can speak with. That's where that came from. I didn't know that decision to be a psychologist in the 3rd grade would actually marry the Black consciousness that I was introduced to in the 4th and the 5th grade. But it actually did when I came out of undergrad, and then subsequent to that came out of grad school in the Garvey movement in Philadelphia. It was so interesting because at those meetings of the UNIA ACL in Philadelphia, the elders would often ask me to stand up and talk about what was happening in the schools and what was a school psychologist, because most people had never heard of a school psychologist. Neither did I, because I was a straight A and B kid. So I've never had to go to the school psychologist for any type of learning problems. So it was through the Garvey movement, believe it or not, that the profession of school psychology married the liberation work of Pan-Africanism, in that, given those talks about the miseducation of Black children at the Garvey meetings, opened me up for people to start inviting me to go and speak. And so now the speaking career is born, because folks are like, can you come and share that, at my church? Can you come and share that at Black History Month? Can you come and share that at the Kwanzaa event we're hosting? And so just by word of mouth, me being this school psychologist and then being this Garveyite, they just kind of married each other. And then they gave birth to my public speaking career, and a lot of people ask me, who is your publicist? I remember one time I ran into Dr. Runoko Rashidi, who's one of our foremost Africologists right now. He studied under some of the greatest minds that our people have produced. And I ran into him in Atlanta. This was probably 2012. And he asked me who was my publicist. And I said I didn't have a publicist. So he said, how do you get all these speaking engagements? And I said, purely word of mouth. And that's how it's been. I've never had a publicist. And people find it interesting because, I get invited to speak more than any other scholar in the world of our race, around the world, as a matter of fact. And it's all about word of mouth. I've never had anybody represent me, go find speaking events. Everything is about word of mouth. And it all started with the Garvey movement. And it all started with being a school psychologist. So I was blessed in many respects, because a lot of people's profession does not lend itself comfortably to the liberation struggle. So for example, if you are a surgeon, you can talk about things that you see in surgery, but being a surgeon doesn't automatically lend itself to the liberation struggle. Whereas being a psychologist or an educator working with our children, you're on the front line of that school to prison pipeline. So it automatically lends itself, to the liberation struggle. So it was a perfect marriage for me, where I was able to take my profession on the road with my Garveyism and discuss them both, which is what I do. I talk about education, and then I also talk about the political situation of our people. So I was very lucky in that regard to be relevant beyond just the conscious rhetoric that you see, to have a skill set that the people can actually benefit from.
So even on that note, just in this tumultuous time that we're in, and how do you find space to be able to two things? One, be able to communicate what's happening about liberation and the need for the necessity for it, because a lot of people don't understand that concept. They just think that we've reached this pivotal point, we've got access to this. But just like, how do you communicate that effectively so people really grasp the idea around the fact that, liberation is a mindset, one, and then also talk to us to how you even have this conversation with youth, because I think right now it seems as if, youth may not understand that the time that we're in needs them. But it needs them to be whole, and it needs them to understand it and to be educated about it. So just kind of talk to us about those things.
Well, I think it is our obligation to provide the youth with a political education. Now, of course, there are varying perspectives on what that political education should be. Myself, coming from a revolutionary Pan-African nationalist perspective, I would not introduce our youth to a methodology of struggle that is not racially exclusive. Right. I believe that a lot of our youth are, to some degree, wasting their time because they're caught up in multicultural struggles that are not going to yield any tangible benefits for Black people. And that's exactly what the power structure wants them to do. If you go back to the George Floyd protests that took place, I guess almost a year ago now, which were the most comprehensive Black protests since the 1967 Dr. King assassination protests. So you're looking at 52 years had went by before Black America had captured the attention of the global media in the way that it did. And we got almost nothing out of that. And there were three reasons for that. Number one, there was no identified leadership. Number two, it was not racially exclusive because we allowed whites and everybody else to infiltrate that march. It ended up being used to benefit every other so-called minority group instead of Black people. Out of that came the Hispanic Prosperity Initiative. Out of that came historic Supreme Court decisions for the LBGT community. Out of that came a presidential hopeful in Joe Biden saying that he would entertain a conversation on reparations, but only if Native Americans would be included in the discussion. So I sat back and I watched how our struggle had been exploited by other groups for their own personal gain. And that was not a new thing. If you study your history, you'll see that every group that has ever sought to build a coalition with Black people have always used Black people, whether it was the Latinos, the European Jews 100 years ago. They all used us and then they left us once they got what they want, and they're still doing it today. So the fact that those marches were not racially exclusive led to exploitation. The fact that we didn't have identified leadership or spokespersonship also led to a mismanagement of the agenda. And last but not least, there was no clearly articulated list of demands. We talked about what we did not want. Obviously, we wanted an end to police brutality. We wanted an end to police genocide, and we wanted police to be held responsible for their conduct. But we did not articulate that into a platform. And that platform should have been all over the world. It should have been on every T-shirt. It should have been on every billboard. And since we didn't have a platform, that was a perfect context for the Democratic Party to step on, and Nancy Pelosi and others, and use the pain of Black America as a stepping stone to Joe Biden's presidential bid. And so the Democrats ended up coming out with their version of a police reform bill, which was one of the softest and weakest recommendations I've ever seen in my life, you know. And so again, we're going to keep going in this circle until we understand that what is to be done for Black people has to be done exclusively by Black people. And it's hard for us to wrap our minds around that idea because most of us have been raised in religions that taught us to be colorblind. And that straitjacket that religion has over African consciousness continues to dictate our political behavior. I respect the church. I respect the masjid. I was raised in both of them. Many of my heroes were Christian pastors and imams of the church. Malcolm was a Muslim. Garvey was a Christian. But there is no solution to white supremacy in the Bible or Quran. And if we keep on looking to religion to provide solutions for political problems, we're never going to solve those problems.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said, and just to kind of touch on that before we shift gears here. I definitely, I struggle with that, with what you just said, because you want to make sure that you are being cognizant of the time and what's going on, but in being cognizant of the time, you also have to realize that you stand in Black flesh and Black skin, and that you want to make sure that as we move forward, we're not creating the same steps, or I should say mistakes, that happened in the past, but we're being conscientious of not to make those same mistakes that were done in the past, and making sure that Black voices are uplifted. And then if we're talking about liberation, and we're talking about making sure that police are held accountable, and that we are ending racism and white supremacy, then that has to be inclusive of Black people, and Black people have to get into the fight. Black people have to speak up. But more importantly, we can't just continue to say no justice, no peace. We have to come with those demands, and we have to stick to those demands, and we have to make sure that they're not being intercepted by others.
Most definitely. Speaking on that note, though, what would the list of demands look like if you were to make them?
Yeah,
I actually had put out a list of those demands. If I can see if I could find them here quickly on the notes on my cell phone.
Make sure y'all share this. If y'all got questions,
let me see if I can find them.
Comments.
I have them on my phone somewhere, but I don't know what I saved them under. It was basically 10 things that the Black community would want. Some of them, if my memory serves me correctly, would be number one, any unarmed, defenseless killing of a Black person by a police officer should automatically be prosecuted as a hate crime. Also, the officers in the Black community should be reflective of the composition of the Black community. If the Black community, if that particular community is 40% Black, 40% of the officers should be Black. There is an issue in America where increasingly inner cities are recruiting police from paramilitary and former military units. And many of these men are hired assassins who come back to America looking for work and they end up becoming police. So their mindset and orientation is not one that is based on solving conflicts without violence. These men have a history and a resume that is filled with initiating violence and ending conflicts with assassination. And most of these men have never lived with Black people, have never worked with Black people. They're coming from some of the most remotest white places, not just in America, but across the world. So literally, the police forces of America are hiring assassins to police the Black community. And so that's something that has to be dealt with. In addition to that, we talked about how all the schools in the Black community that have been shut down should be turned over to the Black community, so we can not only build our own independent schools, but so we could also build other institutions. These closed down public schools are large enough that we can turn them into clinics, we can turn them into banks, we can turn them into our own Whole Food supermarkets. And of course, the Black farmers just had a landmark decision that went in their favor, where they're supposed to be getting a record amount of funds coming their way. So they should be in a position to be able to start distributing their goods across Black America into Black owned Whole Foods markets of our very own. Yeah. So taking over those buildings is critical. But in addition to that, making sure that we have community control of the public schools. Charter schools were never the focus of Black America. Community control of the existing public schools were the focus of Black America. But we lost sight of that once charter schools came about in the 1990s, and a lot of unscrupulous Black folks, eager to pay themselves a handsome ransom, accepted the charter school hustle in place of the community control of the public school movement. Because with a charter school, you can pay yourself $150,000 as the CEO, hire a principal to actually run the school, and you never have to do a day's worth of work, but yet you're making a handsome ransom. So a lot of greedy folk distracted us away from community control of the public schools to the charter school movement. But it was things like that, and there's many others that I put down there. I talked about grants, low interest loans to Black people. I talked about the return of trade schools into the inner city, which the removal of led directly to, along with the CIA's crack cocaine agenda, led to the mass incarceration of Black males between the 80s and the 90s. And so I looked at it comprehensively, what we should be using this moment to do in terms of galvanizing all the problems that we have, and not just limiting it to police brutality, but starting there and then growing out from there. But it never happened that way.
Yeah.
Man, that's deep. That is so deep. And everything you said is something that I really, really agree with. I think we all here sitting here today can agree with that. That's something that our community much so needs, and especially the taking back of our schools. I think that's the best way for us to liberate our people. If we start at the foot of our future, we start at where we we'll have to rely on our kids to move us forward. If we start there, then I don't think there's no way that they can stop us.
Most def. I mean, it's real talk. That is, I think that we have, we're the best saviors of ourselves, because we have so much resource and so much within our own community. We have so much knowledge and skill set of people who know how to do things and how to make these things come to fruition. I think it's just a matter of saying that we're going to take it within our reins, and we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna be our best our best way moving forward, to be able to help our schools, to help our businesses. I mean, I look at what was going on in earlier decades, in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, and how Black people were just thriving and doing things, and they had so much little. They didn't have technology. They didn't have the use of being able to get grants and loans. They made it happen with what they had. So I think with all that we have, all the knowledge, all the people, all the connections, all the networks that we have, and the motivation and the passion, we can do it.
I want to say this to your point, Queen. 3 things that we have to be conscious of. A lot of times when I interview, people always ask me, should we go back to segregation because we did better under segregation?
Mhm.
It's true we did better under segregation, but we did better under segregation because we were forced to work together.
Yeah.
And the difference between segregation and desegregation is the fact that there's nobody to force you to do for yourself. You understand?
Right.
So it was the circumstance, it was racism that actually forced us to do for self. And then once racism saw that by forcing Black people to be self-sufficient, we're actually creating a very powerful Black power base. And we don't want to do that. So desegregation was not about multiculturalism. Desegregation was about making sure Black people cannot undermine the American white power structure with a power structure of their own. That's what desegregation was about. It was about the liquidation of the Black dollar to the benefit of white power. That's what it was. And so to that, I tell people, if you need your enemy to force you to work together, then you're in bad shape. Nobody goes to their enemy and say, can you segregate us again so we can be forced to do its best? America never had an integration movement. America only had a desegregation movement. America only removed the barriers to access. That's it.
That's right.
We were the ones who decided to give up our independent communities. We were the ones who decided to give up our independent schools, our independent hospitals. We had gas stations. We had oil companies. We gave all that stuff up in order to go and live with white folks. So that post-traumatic slavery disease, that Willie Lynch chip, was there all along. It simply did not have an opportunity to express itself. And the minute it was allowed to express itself, we went crazy. You see the same thing with interracial marriage. Up until the Supreme Court struck down anti-miscegenation laws in 68 or 69, this was right around the time of Dr. King's assassination. Up until then, Black men in states that did allow interracial marriage were not marrying a lot of white women. As soon as the Supreme Court said that it is no longer legal to prevent the Black man from marrying the white woman, the Black man has married the white woman more than the men of any other race put together. Now, to clarify, most Black men do not marry white women. That is a fact. But of the ones who do, they marry outside the race more as a percentage, as per capita, than all other men in America put together. And they will tell you that it's not due to self-hate.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead, Pierre. I'm a little speechless.
Right.
I mean, because people ask that question all the time about, was it best for us to go through the civil rights movement? Was it best for us to, to integrate our schools and to integrate public spaces? And I question it all the time. And I used to get...
It was necessary. And the reason it was necessary is because of the psychological inferiority that separate but equal produced in our children. It was a psychological damaging experience to have to tell your child, we have to go in through the back door instead of the front door. You understand? So I appreciate the civil rights struggle, and I appreciate Dr. King and what they did. Dr. King did not tell Black people to give up their independent institutions. He did not do that. All he said was, we are fighting for the right to use that supermarket if we want to. We're fighting for the right to sleep in that hotel if we want to. He never intended for Black folks to give up their own infrastructure in order to integrate into white America. That is not Dr. King's fault. That is our fault. Dr. King was long gone and dead when Black folks decided to give up everything we had and trying to join white folks. We cannot blame him for that. We did it then, and we're still doing it now. Dr. King been dead for 53 years. So what is our excuse now?
Facts.
Most definitely facts.
Well, Dr. Johnson, we thank you so much. Stick around, because I'm sure there's going to be questions, comments. If you were able to, we want to make sure that you were able to connect with the people, not just us as the host. But we appreciate you taking this wonderful time out of your day, out of your schedule, just to teach us, just to give us some knowledge for things that we may not know of, but also encouraging us and motivating us to think beyond the now. I definitely want to make sure that we are being cognizant of our time, and I want to get into some other additional guests who has joined with us virtually. So y'all give a clap for Dr. Johnson,
Most
y'all.
definitely. Thank you for everything. Man, that was deep.
That was deep.
That was liberating right there.
Like, usually I'm not speechless, but I am.
Yeah. I was just thirsty for more knowledge. I'm like, okay, keep going. What else have we done wrong?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of more topics we could have jumped into, but yeah.
I mean,
The nerve of us. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, he took it there, and that's what the point is. The point is for us not to just have these soft conversations for us, but for us to have courageous conversations to talk about the things that we usually don't speak about out loud. We may talk about it behind closed doors with our family and close friends because you're not gonna get no pushback.
Yeah.
But
Let's get that raw and uncut.
You need to have them challenging conversations and get people thinking about stuff and thinking about what you're doing and thinking about your movement and thinking about how we should move with purpose. And knowledge is the greatest power, and that can never be taken away from you, not from the enemy, not from anybody.
He most definitely summed it up, though. Like, I mean, anywhere where you can see flaw in our system, he just pointed it out. Us as a people, he just pointed it out.
Exactly. So definitely wanted to make sure that we get into our legislation and talk with a sister who I know, who I'm proud to just share the stage with, and to see how she moves and to see her working in our state senate, our state capitol, and making sure that she is building awareness, but building policy that is going to be helpful and beneficial for Milwaukee and for Black people. And so, say Senator LaTanya Johnson. Hi, beautiful.
Hi, how are you guys? Sorry, I'm late. I had a problem signing in, but I'm here.
That's no problem at all. It's good to be here and nothing else. But definitely glad that you accepted the invitation to come on the first episode of Revolution Ready. Invited you to come and talk about things that what you've been doing legislatively in Madison, I'm sure they pulling out your hair every single day, whether it is virtually or in person. I know you have double duty tonight. The governor is hosting budget listening sessions this evening, and want to make sure that you be able to attend and be a listening ear to that. But wanted to bring you on just so you could talk about, again, this space is reserved for building up and talking about issues that people need to know about, and especially the things that you are doing in Madison. But more importantly, there is a significant bill. We've been talking about this term, qualified immunity. And the four of us, the three of us, all of us,
New Mexico just banned it too.
New Mexico just banned it. City of New York followed suit, or did it prior to New Mexico. And so we see this wave, this shift, and the federal government has a piece of this inside the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. But you have teamed up with your assembly colleague, Jonathan Brostoff, to have legislation that speaks to this very issue. And so I wanted you to come on tonight and just, tell us a little bit about who you are, the district that you represent, and then talk about the bill and anything else that you deem relevant. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm Senator LaTanya Johnson. I represent the 6th Senate District, which is located on Milwaukee's north and northwest sides. I also have half of downtown. I represent roughly 160,000 constituents. I'm also on one of the most powerful committees in the entire state, which is the Joint Finance Committee. And Tiffany mentioned that earlier. Right now, this is our hot time. We are going around the state having listening sessions regarding the governor's budget. The governor's budget is a $91 billion document. And so naturally, people all over the state have something to say, because they want to see things that they're interested in the budget. I have to say that I feel like Governor Evers did a really good job of listening to the people and trying to put bits and pieces in the budget that would help, our community as well as the rest of the state. So earlier today, I was on the floor in Madison. We were told that it was going to be a late day, probably be there until 5. We got out a little bit early at around 3:30, and I immediately hopped in the car and came back to Milwaukee. So to be here in Milwaukee around this time, especially now with joint finance going on, is really good for me, because normally I'm getting home after it's dark, long after it's dark, and then have to be back super early the next morning.
Hmm. So yeah, I think you hit on a really big thing. I always talk about when we talk about budgets, that they are the moral compass of a city, of a state, of a country, and it says to what the city prioritizes, what they deem as a priority. And so when I look at what the governor has presented, and obviously this is part of the concept of being able to get public input, and people being able to have dialogue prior to you all as legislators being able to dive deep into that. But I think about, how are we delegating funds and resources to our communities? And I always think about the fact Milwaukee is always looked at as this red flag, since we are, the economic driver of this state. We're taking up a lot of the money as such, as we should. We have the largest public school system here, but making sure that we are being conscientious of the fact that our dollars matter, and where we place those dollars most definitely matters. So if for anyone who hasn't had an opportunity, make sure that you are tuning in to make sure to find out how our state, you as a taxpayer, how your money is being divvied up
Mhm.
into education, into the environment, into healthcare, into policing, and ensuring that we have a stake in that, and that you're telling, not just asking, but you're telling your representatives, such as State Senator Johnson, where you want to see this money go into. And so that way she can be responsive and advocate for that. Again, budget equals priority. So our priorities have to be right. Just like you prioritize things in your household, you put money where if you want to eat out every week, you put money placed aside for that. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox because I just want y'all to talk. Make sure y'all sharing this, y'all liking this, y'all posting things in the comments, ask questions. That's what we're here for tonight.
And the difficult thing for me, Tiffany, being on the Joint Finance Committee, I'm the only African American on the committee. Out of 16 members, there are 12 Republican and 4 Democrats. Is to hear Republicans say all the time, we can't afford, we don't have money, or we keep throwing money at issues in Milwaukee and they, never seem to change. But the reality is that they don't fund um the resources that we need adequately. And in Madison, the Republicans have such a disdain for the federal government, especially now that Biden's in, that they constantly leave money on the table that could help with infant mortality, that could help with incarceration, juvenile justice, and all the things that we care about. But because they feel like that's welfare, they don't want to touch it, or because they feel like it's going to Milwaukee. Like last session, Governor Evers put $40 million in the budget to help remove lead laterals, but because they felt the majority of the money was going to Milwaukee, they immediately took it out. And
Wow.
this year, we're leaving $1.6 billion on the table. $650 million of taxpayer money we're spending toward um, Medicaid for the few people that we're covering. When if we expanded Medicaid, we would get an additional $1 billion in federal funds, not have to pay $650 million in taxpayer funds, and use that money toward helping to alleviate some of those problems. Last year during the pandemic, we needed to vote to remove the 1 week waiting period for unemployment compensation. We didn't meet in a timely manner because Republicans didn't call us back. We lost out on $25 million for this state.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys have heard, it's been all in the paper. When the Republicans sued to take away the mask mandate, we would have lost $70 million a month in quest benefits for our families that rely on food share.
Right.
If it wasn't for the governor striking that deal with the federal government, $70 million would have been lost in a time where people are waiting hours in for free food because they can't afford to feed their family.
I
When it
need my
comes to taking care of people like us or poor people, the
I want
Republicans
to.
have absolutely no interest.
Yeah, I think it's not even shocking anymore to when we see these headlines and we see these things, especially in the middle of a pandemic, or that we're trying to get over the hump of a pandemic. And seeing how just basic necessities of housing and food, and money that is being allocated to be able to help states in being able to beat this virus, and to get it behind us, and we have to fight for them.
Right.
Where there
Right.
are millions of people within our state, it doesn't matter the color. It matters that people are destitute, and people need jobs, people need help, people
Mhm.
need assistance, and when the time is for it, we should be able to extend that. So there was a question, and I want you to be able to answer it, so you can
Yeah, I was just gonna say
go ahead.
we had a question for you, Senator. It was from Britta Louise. She said, "What is the best way to communicate with our senators or those who need to hear about how we want the budget to be distributed? Does calling or writing letters really make a difference?"
So on April 28th, I believe we are going to have a virtual listening session, because we didn't the closest that we came to Milwaukee this year was in Whitewater. And the next two listening sessions we have are in Rylander and Mezzanine, I believe. So they're going to have a virtual listening session, but you can email our offices. And don't just email your elected official, email everybody on joint finance, even if you're sending them the same letter, to let them know what's important in the budget, what you want to see, and what you feel that you need. Like Tiffany said, literally, Milwaukee is the engine of the state. I hear so many people talk about the downtown area all the time and how all the investments are going downtown, and that's true. But one of the reasons that all of the investments are going in downtown is because Milwaukee and that downtown area provides the largest revenue for
Mhm.
tourism dollars, because people are going to the Bucks arenas, they're coming to the Summerfest, and they're staying downtown. And so the state will pour money into downtown because it brings them money. So that portion of downtown, that little bitty portion, like 20% of the city, right? It pays dividends like of over 80%. But contact your elected official, contact everybody on joint finance, send them emails. You can also call their offices. We have a system in Madison called Forward. So every time you reach out and contact your legislature, we put that information in Forward. So when we're discussing a bill or legislation and we talk about how many responses we've gotten for that particular issue, we can pull that up in the system and say, I've had 300 people contact my office, or I've had 50 people. The important thing is that you want those Republicans who are, we're told that they're going to strip everything out that Tony put in and start from base, that they hear what's important to you, especially when it comes to the inner city.
I don't want to get off topic here or anything, but I do want to ask, how far are you with the bill to end the qualified immunity?
And I would say,
So,
talk a little bit about what's inside of it and how it came
okay.
to fruition, and most definitely where is it going?
Okay, so basically, the Qualified Immunity Bill protects state and local officials, including law enforcement, um, which consists of police officers, from individual liability unless the official violated a clearly established constitutional right. Right. The problem with that is that basically qualified immunity has now led to the point that in today's day and time, unless you can find a prior case with almost the exact same rights violated or occurred, um, and it was found unconstitutional, you can't prove that the law was clearly established, which prevents a lot of people from being able to bring civil suits for
Right.
qualified immunity.
Right.
And so, where we're in the process now, the bill was circulated. And so we asked authors to sign on. I believe 18 people signed on, but it's mostly Democrats.
Mhm.
So, in order for the bill to get a hearing, to be able to get to the floor, um, to be voted on in both the House and in the Senate, we have to rely on Republicans. Because there's no Republican co-author, we're going to have a really, really hard time of getting that bill passed. But this bill came about because of the time and dedication that Jonathan Brustoff put in to the movement, and him wanting to do something to protect the community from basically rogue police officers. But but not just protect the community from those rogue police officers, protect the state and the taxpayers too. Because
Right.
right now, with qualified immunity, the taxpayers pay for, the riots, the rebuilding of the communities. They pay for the victim's family, the compensation for whatever it is that the police officer does wrong. So they pay for all of that. And in some cases, they even have to pay for the police officer's legal fees, but the
Right.
police officer pays nothing. And
Mhm.
basically, what this bill does, or what Jonathan wants to see, he wants to end qualified immunity in the state of Wisconsin. So, what that means is that law enforcement officers or police officers would no longer be covered under this immunity piece. They would either have to take a policy out to insure themselves, or they would have to, or their union could take a policy out to insure themselves. And which isn't that far out of line, right? Because doctors do it. Doctors have to
Right.
have malpractice insurance. So why shouldn't officers have to do it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Most
Wow.
And the
definitely.
and the other thing that would do, if officers did have to provide their own insurance or their own indemnity bond, right, is that you if that police officer, because of his record or because of his carelessness, could not be insured, then that would automatically end his career as a police officer if he was a bad apple. Because if you can't be insured, you can't be on the force, right?
Right.
So for example, with officer, I believe his name was Mesa, right? So three killings, whether they were ruled justified or not, within a 5-year period, right? If he had to provide his own insurance bond, or if the union had to pay for his bond, after that first incident, his insurance would have went up, right?
Mhm. Right.
Second incident, it would have skyrocketed. Third incident, he probably would have been dropped or no
Right.
longer to find insurance. And that in itself would have ended his career rather than him being able to go somewhere else and pose not only a big threat to the community, but a greater threat to the community that will have to make that next payout for his
Hmm.
next victim.
Definitely. I mean, even just us as citizens, we have to have drive a car. You have to have car insurance. And the more claims you file, the more tickets you have against your name, your license, the insurance is either going to go up or at some point in time they're going to drop you. And so I think, to your point, I want to ask the question because I think it may be helpful for those who are listening and tuning in to know, what can they do to help support in getting this bill further along, and making sure there's awareness around it. Tell us the bill name and number, but also, you know, getting the push behind it, because I think this is not think, I know. This is definitely I'm gonna take that out of my vocabulary. I know it's a necessity. Because once there's accountability and when they see there's a price tag behind it, then that will
I had to hit the clap button. My bad.
that will give more for officers or anybody to say, you know what, I gotta clean up my act because I ain't gonna keep dishing this out. I'm not gonna put my job at risk. None of us wants to put our job at risk. So I don't think there should be any separation or exceptions to police officers at all. That if you cause physical harm, if you cause fatal harm, not once, not twice, but 3 times, but 1 time is enough. You got to be held accountable for that.
That's definitely, and our citizens should be held accountable to pay their
taxpayers should not be footing your legal bills. Taxpayers should not be responsible for footing anything else, and you get off scot-free civilly and criminally.
And you could possibly resign afterwards.
Or sue.
Yeah.
And you have to look at it too. Okay, so let's look at it from Milwaukee perspective, right? So Milwaukee has about 1,800 police officers that are sworn police officers, right? So the budget for public safety in Milwaukee is about $5 million. But our entire tax levy for every single building that we collect taxes for is $291 million. So police and fire are half of our entire budget for the city of Milwaukee. That's about $1.6 billion. And we're talking about fire and police, $405 million. And even though we're paying that much in benefits, I think next year it's expected to go up an additional about $23 million because of the benefits that these police officers get. When you look at starting salary plus their health benefits and all of that, you're looking at officers, their benefit package being around $117,000 for one person. And so that's a lot of money. But when these officers violate a citizen's right and the city is sued, right? The city doesn't just have that money laying around just to pay out lawsuits. They have to bond for that money, which means they have to borrow. So not only are we paying out these $1 million settlements, we're paying out these $1 million settlements with interest. Right. And so that's extremely, extremely disturbing. But the unions for the police have gotten just so strong. So, for example, I think it's called duty disability. So if an action is going to be brought against the police officer, I believe the city of Milwaukee has 72 hours to notify that officer that an action is going to take place. So they have to notify them 72 hours before the action takes place, according to their union guidelines. So if you gonna tell me today that I'm finna be fired on Friday, guess what? I'm gonna go out on FMLA. I mean, I'm gonna do a whole, and that's what the police officers do. That's enough time for them to sign up for duty disability, which then allows them to be paid, even, pending the investigations. At one point, we had signed into law that was not allowable, that it was illegal. But that was one of the first things that the Republicans changed. So the police benefits with the unions and the way that their contracts are negotiated are not only a problem here in Milwaukee, they're a problem all over the state. Because even if you lay off police officers, even if you don't hire any additional police officers, those pensions are going to continue to grow. And the state has to fully fund those pensions, and so does the city of Milwaukee. So if those pension levels continue to rise, the city is going to continue to have to find that money to pay them. And right now, the police budget is more than our entire tax levy. So it's getting to a point where the city isn't going to have the money to do it. And it's really beyond that point, because right now we're spending 50% on fire and police, 4% on health. And it's no wonder that, the health of so many of our residents here in Milwaukee is so bad, because when you can only dedicate 4% of your budget to health, 7% to community, I mean, those are where your priorities should be. But right now, it's fire and police, and not even so much as fire. I think out of the 50% of that budget, fire is only 17%, and we keep closing fire stations, which add
Right.
additional response time. So that's the issue.
So before we let you go, because this is most definitely a lot of information to take in, and it's most definitely needed. Before we let you go, what are some of the ways that the people in the community can help not only just push these bills forward, but just be active, where they're needed, so that we don't have to go through this alone.
Letters, emails, phone calls. When bills come up on the floor that we're having hearings for, actually having bodies, people turn up is huge. I can't say enough about that. Lobby days for people in Milwaukee to come to the Capitol and talk about what their issues are is extremely, extremely important. I can talk about that all day long. They hear that from me all the time, but they need to hear it from the public. One of the reasons that those Republican electeds are not scared of the city of Milwaukee is because Milwaukee doesn't always turn out, and we need to. If Milwaukee turned out the way that they needed to, you wouldn't see, the issues or the rhetoric about Milwaukee, because there's no statewide election that you can win without winning the city of Milwaukee. There's no presidential election that you can win without the city of Milwaukee. So
That's
all
right.
of that is really, really important. There's another bill that's important too. So the qualified immunity bill, that bill number is SB 295, which is Senate Bill 295, and Assembly Bill 186. They're like sister companions. But there's another bill that you guys should be aware of, and it was introduced last week, Thursday, by the Attorney General. And basically, what this bill, this Senate bill, the number is um, 2915/1. It's a LRB number. I don't believe it's been given the Senate bill number yet. So it's Senate LRB 2915/1 and Assembly LRB 2121. Now, basically, what this bill does is, in several U.S. states around this country, like Arizona, California, Florida, just to name a few, attorney generals may bring civil actions in the name of the state where they have cause to believe that civil rights have been violated. Now, this is important. Right now, there's no entity that can bring civil rights litigation in the state of Wisconsin. So people have to bring these lawsuits themselves. They have to hire their own lawyers. They have to basically foot the bill. So basically, what this bill does, it will give the attorney general the right to bring a lawsuit regarding civil rights in the name of the state involving housing, employment, education,
Mm.
public accommodations, which definitely the issues with the police would definitely fall into this category. And that would allow the attorney general to do investigations
Yeah.
and to also impose civil fines when they find issues that have, so let me see if I can explain this. So, for example, if the Milwaukee Police Department was found to continuously be involved in lawsuits, like we know they have been over $40 million, the attorney general could come in and investigate the police department, do their own investigation, gather their own detailed information, bring that lawsuit on behalf of the state of Wisconsin for the individual who has had their civil rights violated. That's
That's
huge.
that's
That's
huge.
huge. Because
Yeah.
right now, the state doesn't have anybody to do that. That's
Right.
why you see people having to do these lawsuits in their own name, finding their own attorneys. The attorney general would be able to do that. Would be able to do that in the state's name.
We need that.
Yeah, we need that. I'm definitely glad that you brought that up because I was like, bring that in here because we need to let the people know so they can know to uplift that. So if you don't know already, for those who are listening in, our state attorney general's name is Josh Call. And so we need to make sure that he has more power to be able to protect things just of this nature. So we need to make sure that we are making noise about this particular bill that State Senator Latanya Johnson spoke about, along with the qualified immunity bill that she also spoke to as well. It's good for us to know the right people in place, and so that way we can communicate our needs, our wants, and our concerns, and get them met. If we're not talking about them, these bills will just go by the wayside. If we're not talking about it, money will just float away, and we'll never see it. And I think that's what they want us to do. They want us to not see and not know and not speak up about what's going on. But I always say, right now it's 2021. It's a new day.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
new year. So we're not letting money float away. We're not letting issues move to the wayside. We speaking up and we speaking out about them. So I definitely want to just thank you, Senator Johnson, for just taking some time out of your day, out of your schedule, to be able to just to teach us and give us knowledge and to let us know about what is going on. And I thank you for the work that you're doing. It's not easy work being in the public light, being a public official. You have to take everything that comes with it. Look at you have a guest that wants to join the podcast too. But thank you for
Girl,
just
they
for
hear
doing
voices and they come running. They know I'm on Zoom.
for joining
Us
in
definitely,
the
we
fight
thank you
and
for
just
coming.
lifting that bill. So we're gonna definitely support. We're gonna do what we need to do on this end to support the bills that you have, and especially on this issue that we're talking about, a qualified immunity, because people need to know it's time to end it in Wisconsin. It's time to end it in Milwaukee. It's time to end it across this country. So thank y'all. Give her a clap, y'all.
Us definitely.
Share
Thank you,
this.
thank you, thank you.
Share this like it. Man, I mean, we just keep going from great to greater.
Right, and we
Hey, and y'all think y'all about to get a little. It's about to get explosive in here because I love this young lady.
Oh yeah, it's time to talk about this
It's really
qualified immunity.
it's time to
and
really turn up and really talk about the issue at hand, because it's good when you're able to have people who sit behind the walls of the Capitol to be able to push this agenda.
Mhm.
But it's even better to have faces of people who know how it's impacted their life, and to be able to give true testimony, and to be able to speak and just bring the real impact of what's been facing our community, but what has been facing right here at home. So I want y'all, I say everything about respect Black women, protect Black women, because that's a real thing for me.
Definitely.
Because you ain't gonna never see this Black face, and I ain't gonna never tell you to respect it and learn and speak up and defend and love. Most importantly, love on Black women, love us. But I want y'all to give a real big applause for this young woman who I just met who we all just met this last year.
Yeah.
While it's unfortunate, the cause that brought us together, I am glad and I'm blessed for having the opportunity to meet her and to see her development and to see how she's just taking courage and speaking up on behalf of her family, on behalf of herself, but on behalf of all of us, who will never know what this feeling feels like. My brother Sedan, he knows. So my heart always continues to be extended to him and his family on behalf of Seville Smith, Seville gang in the building. And he just celebrated his heavenly birthday when he would have turned 28 on this past weekend. But being able to have family and being able to have people that can really speak to this. And so I want y'all to welcome, because not only is she, this not what she is, y'all. She's a woman. She's educated. She wants to be a lawyer. She, you know what, part-time, she got a lawyer. She got her hustle on, y'all. You know, she can really spit, you know. I ain't want to call her out because, you know, we could go bar for bar right now. No, I'm just playing. In another lifetime, I'm going to spit real quick. But I want y'all to show some love and clap it up for Talivia Cole.
How y'all doing?
We doing good now that you're here.
Right.
So we just glad that you was able to come, that you were able to be on the first episode of season 3 of Revolution Ready.
Right.
Lights, camera, black action.
Black action in
the building. And so we just wanted you to, you know, really just want to give you the floor to talk.
That's right. Let them know who sister you is. You know, let them know.
Period. Well, thanks for the introduction, Tiffany. Of course, you know, like she said, we met a little bit over a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's been a blessing ever since to meet so many people in the revolution. Long live the revolution. First,
long live the revolution.
The fight continues. So, like I said, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
In y'all presence. Once again, I am Talivia Cole. I am a senior at Jackson State University.
HBCU
a graduating
in the building.
Senior, you know.
HBCU in the building.
Period. You know, shout out to my other HBCUs, of course.
Come
HU
on now.
for life, you
Come
know.
on,
But yeah, so and I'm part of a lot of different organizations, founder of March 53, who pertains to Alvin Cole, Jay Anderson, and Antonio Gonzalez. And like I said, blessed to be here. I am the sister of Alvin Cole, who was shot and killed by Joseph Mensah February 2nd, 2020. And that's where it all started, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know.
So tell us, you know, we were introduced to Alvin because of what unfortunately happened to him. But tell us who Alvin was. Because I think it's good to humanize,
Right.
and so that way we know the character and the persona of Alvin.
Right. Alvin was a kid, first off. You know, he was our baby. He was not just like our immediate family baby. He was like the baby of the family, you know. Growing up, he was this little chubby kid, eat a lot, and listen to old school music. Like, how you know that song?
Right.
You know? Like, I got old school parents, you know. He loved family. He stayed around family. Like, if we didn't know where he were, like, he was at a cousin house, you know. And it was a cousin we haven't even met before, but we were cousins, you know. I'm like, hold on, boy. How you know that? You know, so and he was just intelligent, you know, like he would score the highest at his school. You know, he was in 10th grade about to graduate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like with senior credits, you know.
Wow.
So like it's just an honor to have spent as much time as I did with him, you know, teaching him and just to see the person, the young man he became along the way. You know, of course, everybody had their days and their flaws, but like he learned from it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because before his death, it was like that was like the most crucial time when he was just like elevating,
Right.
you know, like in school, about to graduate, like everything was going so good,
Yeah.
and boom,
Right.
you know. So like I said, Alvin was a lovable kid, you know. He was a rapper himself, you know. So, you know, best believe we had our little sessions, you know. And I was big sis, so I'm like, you got to do it like this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? But then I'm like, he called, I ain't gonna lie, you know. But, you know, so it was always a teachable moment,
Yeah.
you know, when we were together.
That's what's
Yeah.
up. That's what's up.
And I think it's important for people to hear that,
Yeah.
because we always get we hear the painted narrative of all the bad stuff they want to portray about a person.
Right.
You know what I mean? We never take the time to really just celebrate a person for really who
Who
they
they
really
were.
were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said, everybody has flaws, everybody has downfalls, but that doesn't make them who they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you don't stay there at
Yeah.
that place. You know what I mean?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's
And I
right.
strongly believe in, you know, without struggle, there is no progress.
Yeah.
You know, and we struggled,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we continue to struggle, but the progress is coming,
Exactly.
and it has been coming, and it
Yeah.
has been here, you
Yeah.
know. So embrace the struggle.
Yeah.
Embrace it. Yeah. You know, you bring up the point, and that's why I brought it up about wanting to humanize who Alvin was, because, you know, even right now we're in the midst of, you know, the murder trial of George Floyd. And just a few days earlier this week, you know, another
Mhm.
young black man, 20 years old, is
Mhm.
taken from us.
Young.
Mhm.
And the immediate response from people to Dante Wright and to even George Floyd, obviously, who was much older, but they both black. So they
Mhm.
both get the same treatment
Mhm.
as far as wanting to make them out to be as savages
Mhm.
and
Right.
wanting to put their past on display. Everybody got a past.
Mhm.
Everybody got one. Nobody is in here perfect or an exemption from things, trials and tribulations of life. But we all deserve life.
Mhm.
And we all
Right.
deserve the respect of life. And we all deserve the respect even in death.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I want to encourage people to not allow the enemy to take away the joy and humanity of people, and especially those who tragically lost their lives to police negligence, to police violence, to police brutality, and making sure that George Floyd, that we don't think of him as whatever he had going on as an addict or anything like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
That
Right.
that's all don't even matter.
Mhm.
We don't even think about the fact of Dante Wright having a warrant. We don't care.
Right. Right.
We
That's-
care
that's-
about
they didn't
them
know.
and their
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
They didn't know that before they killed them.
Didn't know that.
That wasn't the initial stop.
That wasn't the reason.
You know? That was most definitely not the
Counterfeit $20 bill, air freshener, unexpired tag. But those things resulted in death.
Mhm.
And never would you imagine that that's
a pack of Skittles.
a pack of Skittles for wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
You're not
Running.
signaling the turn.
You know what I'm saying? For sleeping in a car.
Leaving your front door open.
Hands in the air.
I'm sleeping in my house. Breonna Taylor. Sleeping on a bench.
Eating ice cream on the couch.
Sleeping in a car.
Playing in the
You know,
playground.
I'm paying my own black business.
Mm.
Like just in general.
Opening your front door to your house. Being in the backyard at your grandma's house.
So I want y'all to realize that it is mad real out here. And we speak a lot collectively about black excellence and black being beautiful and black being powerful. It is, despite any of that. It is.
Right.
So, you know, talk to us about where we are now, Talivia, when we talk about the case for your brother.
Justice for D3.
Justice
Like what
for
you mean
D3.
Yeah.
when you
What
when
does
you
that
say
mean?
that?
So those of you who know, like, we didn't find out who killed Alvin Cole until like June. You know, Yet I remind you, he was killed in February, you know, so we were still trying to seek all information, like what happened, you know, why did it happen, you know, and who killed him. So we spent that time just trying to find more information. And it wasn't until we added our lawyers, Kimberly Motley and Deja Vishny, to our case, and they let us know who killed him and that he killed 2 others before him. And it wasn't until that moment I'm like, I gotta take the streets. You know, if I can come out here for George Floyd, if I can come out here for any other person, I can come out here for my brother. And because I've done this before, I had to like let my family know like this is what we got to do. We can't just sit here and be sad and do nothing. You know, that's not how we're gonna get justice.
Yeah.
You know, so I attend Jackson State, like I said, and we go by the I love. So it was 3, and that's how it became the 3. You know, I wanted to put them together because in that moment I reached out to the families also, and we all connected, and to this day we stay connected, and we are a great family. Yes, Justice for the 3. Go and hashtag that out, y'all.
Yeah, hashtag that.
Yeah, so ever since then, like I said, we became a family, you know, and now our lawyers represent all 3 families, you know. Like, what's better than that? You know, to have somebody that we trust on our team. Because best believe we have so many people trying to, you know, be our lawyer, but in reality, just trying to get information out of us.
Right.
So we had to be smart about who we allowed in our house. And that's not just as far as lawyers, but activists.
Right.
You know, trust me, we had some of everybody in our face.
Right. Right.
You know, so I had to get home. I'm like, what is going on? Because I'm in school at the time. So I'm watching from the news and I'm just like, nah, you know, can't trust everybody. So as far as the case, so y'all know we've been through a lot last year, you know. And now Joseph Mensah has been promoted. Now he works at Waukesha and training as a sheriff. Which, you know,
that's just another
slap in the face, y'all.
Yeah,
scary.
Another slap in the face.
Exactly.
And we also have this John Doe hearing going on for Jay Anderson to get the Jay Anderson case reopened. And our next meeting is May 4th. So make sure y'all tune in to that because it'll be the last meeting for, you know, for the people to take the stand and testify, like the experts and things like that.
Can you tell us a time?
Not sure of the time yet, but be on the lookout for that. But
definitely gonna post it in the group as soon as we get that information.
Yep, for sure. And then there's gonna be another one after that for a closing statement. So just be on the lookout for that because Chief Weber would have to come to that and testify. He has been subpoenaed. You know, right? They threw our lawyer subpoena out, but guess what? The judge ordered him to come because you're not about to lie to him and think you're just about to get away. We ain't in Tulsa. We in Milwaukee now. You feel me? So I think it's going to be an excellent day. Kimberly Motley is going to take him down. She's going to take everybody down because
shout out to Kim.
Shout out to Kim. Yeah. You know, because it's hard work, y'all. And it's a lot because, you know, you're thinking about the public, you're thinking about everything that's going on, you know, and we just got to continue to do what we're doing. You know, we got to continue to make noise and let them know that Joseph should be charged with a crime, if not multiple crimes, you know, because what he did should have never happened. And not just him, but Chief Weber should be charged with a crime. And he should be fired immediately for just cause. So we got to continue to push for that firing of Chief Weber before he retire. I believe in June. We cannot let this man retire, y'all.
That's right.
We need that.
We got to get him out. It is crucial. So like I said, that is going on. And then everybody remember the incident October 8th during the curfew, the illegal curfew that was put out, and the attack on Mama Cole. So that's just something our family still, traumatized about, because, who would ever thought that the family would get targeted and beat up like that.
Right.
Like the mother, the day after the DA say no charges to her son, you beat the mother. You beat her to where she had to go to the hospital. You tased her.
Right.
You pulled her out the car by her hair.
Mm.
And then you stopped anybody from recording. You took everybody's phones. You took the news people phones when they was recording what happened to Mama Cole, because they did not want it to be out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, knowing there was a live going on that captured everything. Might have not captured the video, but it captured
They took
everything
your
that
phone too,
was.
right?
They definitely took my phone.
How long did it take for you to get your phone back?
It took 22 days.
Damn, that's
22
enough
days
Yeah,
to
that's
get my
enough
phone
go
back.
through that
You know.
phone.
Oh, I've been compromised.
Yeah.
That was the worst feeling, y'all,
Oh, they
because I
did.
did so much to try to,
Yeah.
get my phone. Like, no, you're not about to take my phone. But by the
Right.
time I looked, everybody else was getting arrested. So it was like, damn, But the fact that they had it for so long, and then you talk about this evidence, what we this is a curfew violation or not, and then you hit us with these tickets for like $1,000 when it should have never exceeded 300, if not
Mine was
200.
like
Like, what?
13.
1300.
Yeah, I think mine was because I got my hair braided on the police steps at the station.
What?
Yeah, they charge you for that.
No, man, they hit me hard. I'm talking about disorderly conduct. I'm like, wait, I got failure to disperse tickets, all type of stuff.
$1,300?
13. I only got 2 braids.
I think that's
their
their favorite number, man. 1300.
Did you at least get the finish
Their
number?
favorite number.
Yeah.
Favorite number, man. 13. It's
Yeah,
gonna,
mine
what
was-
what y'all
mine
doing with
kids'
$1,300,
first
man?
Did you get the braids to finish though?
Yeah, I
Oh,
got a finish.
that's cool. Right.
So it was worth it then.
Like,
it was worth it.
that's crazy. But they hit Mama Cole with 2 tickets.
Wow.
With 2 charges. And we recently found out that the lawyer is trying to tell her that she has to plead guilty or no contest to what they did to her.
That shit
They
is
said
crazy.
what, curfew violation, and then obstructing an officer when y'all put her in the hospital.
Obstruction
Y'all
of
gave her
officer?
2 black eyes.
It was all on video.
All on video. I said the lawyer must didn't see the video or something. What is going on?
No,
They're
this-
just going off of what Tosa is telling them, but Tosa is putting them in deeper shit. I don't know if I could cuss on this.
You can
shit.
cuss on
You know,
here.
Tosa putting them in some deep shit that they can't even get out of. The rug is too lumpy. You see the shit now, like, but to tell her that she has to be on probation for 6 months is bullshit.
Probation?
Probation.
After they
Wow.
assaulted her.
Wow.
After they assaulted her, they assaulted
Who
her
else
child,
got
and
off
then they
of
killed her
probation
child.
that
They
was
killed
there?
their child and also dismissed the charges against the officer and then assaulted her.
And she gets a
And
charge.
now she gets probation. Man?
Probation. So that is the latest thing that's really been bothering me. Like, in reality, we know our lawyer gonna fight it, but it's still, what is they trying to do?
Yeah.
I know they trying to silence us, but like, how far is this gonna go?
Right.
Haven't you already done enough? It should have stopped at Alvin Cole. It should have never started.
Right.
I mean, but after that, it most definitely should have been enough. It should have been enough. Enough has most definitely been enough for me. I'm
Enough
so
has
serious.
been enough. You said it.
It's like they hit you with everything they can to make you give up.
Try to
That's
make what it
stop the
is.
fight, to make you just, you know what? I don't got the money to be paying for these lawyer fees, court, all that. I'm just going, you know what? It is what it is, because so many of us are conditioned to just say it is what it is.
Exactly.
You know what I
think you
mean?
hit it.
They need to
Condition.
change that until enough is enough and
Right.
start to do something about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking on doing stuff about it, ain't you going to school for law, right?
Yep.
Okay.
What's up?
So,
Yeah,
so what
so
you
definitely,
plan on
I'm
doing
definitely,
about it? Let them know.
I'm in the midst of, applying to law schools and things like that. So I have a lot of people just like vouching for me and everything because
what's
it's like
up.
a debate of like if I want to stay here in New Law, you know, or go elsewhere. So
We need you because we might need you to be the
Right.
DA.
I don't know if I want to be a DA. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I mean, you get to
You know,
charge
I know people that could
officers with
probably, you
crimes
know,
of
I'd
you know
rather
that they've
defend my
actually
people,
committed.
man, and take them down if I got to, you know. So, but definitely, we need people to take that position, you know. So if you interested, please let the people know ahead of time so we can vouch for you. So when the time comes, guess what? You got all the votes. You got you. Like, we here for y'all.
That's right.
Most
That's right.
definitely.
We got supporters too. They want to know you got a graduation date.
Yes, I do. It's actually May 8th. We still getting details, of course, you know.
Hey, we getting it cracking.
That's what's up.
So yeah, May 8th.
We
Shout
getting
out,
cracking,
shout out
y'all.
That's
to
what's
that.
up. That's what's up. May 8th.
We getting it cracked. Bill Gang and TPR gonna most definitely come out for your graduation.
Appreciate it.
We love it. We love you. Is there anything else you want us to just touch on? Any dates? Any things you want us to just
Yeah,
Let the
yeah.
people
be
know
aware
how they
about?
can
Yeah,
follow
yeah.
you. Stay in tune with
Yeah,
D3.
definitely go and follow me on
and the
Facebook.
Justice for
Right now, like I said, since I've been compromised, everything has been taken down, you know. So I'm just in the process of getting a lot of things back up and building it back up, you know.
Sick.
So
Compromise.
so just like go follow my Facebook, Talivia Cole, Instagram, Cole Tokyo, Cole.Tokyo.
Justice, Wisconsin.
Hey.
Look what the cops came to do.
Hey.
That's my jam. I just had to throw that in there real quick.
For real, y'all. So, and I got this page that's going to be posted this week for March 43. So you can also go like that page, go follow it. We're going to be posting a lot of information in that page. A lot of upcoming things coming up that I'm excited that we have a date to really talk about everything or whatever. But like, we have this huge march coming up that we definitely going to be reaching out to a lot of people to get involved in. You already know we already had the rally last year.
That's right.
We're looking to have another one, you know, right after the hearing for Jay Anderson, you know, to celebrate, you know, and to put more pressure on what's going on.
Right.
Not more so pressure on a judge, but just like let them know that we here. We've been here.
Mhm.
You feel me? So just to get more people to listen to see what's going on, because you'll be surprised how many people do not know about D3. Do not know about Alvin Cole, Jay Anderson, and Antonio Gonzalez. And it's a little disturbing,
It's most
you know.
definitely disturbing.
But guess what? I'm here to tell you.
Right.
I'm not too mad, you know, but I'm gonna educate you. You know, so like I said, if you know somebody that don't know the story, go and give them a little quick, you know, or summary of the story. Go let them know where to follow. Go follow TPR. Go follow Revolution Ready. Go follow all these people out here that's talking about it.
That's
you
right.
know, and that's how we're gonna get more people out. That's how we're gonna get more attention. Whether it's here or locally, nationally, like we got to keep going.
Yeah.
Because it can't stop here. Because there's so many cases here that should have been talked about
That's
elsewhere.
Right.
You know, and I mean Justice Wisconsin. I mean that, and then it's not just with D3. It's with everybody who has suffered from the hands of police officers here.
Destiny Monet, shout out to you. She's saying we stand with you.
Hashtag March for D3. Okay.
Appreciate you, Sush.
So, bros.
I
think this
mean,
is real
well,
good.
this was great. You know, this was episode 1.
I just want to say, don't
Episode
forget that date, May 4th, that she mentioned. Come out there and support her. You said Chief Weber gonna be there, right? They have
Yep,
to
yep,
subpoena
definitely
him.
support
Dum,
the
dum,
Anderson
dum.
family.
Yeah,
Dum, dum, dum.
I just wanted to make sure y'all got that date again.
I
'cause-
swear, man,
yeah.
where my button at, man? Sit your dumb. Solid Chief Weber. All right. Well, I mean, I want to thank you, Sylvia. We would like to thank you.
Yes,
We were
most
honored
definitely.
to have you here. Most definitely, you know, man, the very first episode
Right,
of
right,
Revolution
honored.
Ready, season 3.
Season 3.
Season 3.
We just killed it, y'all. We kicked it off with some heavy hitters. Like,
Yeah.
who are upcoming guests gonna be then? Because this a hard line to follow right
They
here.
gotta stay tuned. They gotta stay
Can't
tuned.
spill the tea. Y'all just gonna have to check it out every Wednesday, 5 o'clock.
And
will
go
be
get your
there.
gear.
Get
Go
your
Oh,
get
gear.
your
yeah.
gear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you haven't, bought your gear, you can get it from Revolution Ready page, Revolution Ready LLC. Make sure you follow us. We got t-shirts, hoodies. We got it for the kids too. And we'll be back here Wednesday.
Y'all make sure y'all share this. Y'all make sure y'all like this.
Yeah.
Y'all make sure y'all keep following. Y'all keep talking
Yeah.
about, like Tilly was saying, keep building awareness. Make sure y'all keep the name of Dante Wright lifted up, his family, all the families that have been impacted by police brutality.
Right. And once again, we want to shout out Dr. Umar Johnson, Senator Latanya Johnson, and Tafila Cole. And I just want to give a shout out to my co-hosts, man. Mr. Sedan, Tiffany in the building, But yeah. So see y'all again, man, next week. And don't forget lights.
Camera.
Black
Black
shit.
shit.
Do that.